Coming up on this Thursday edition of Daybreak, marking the new year, North Korean leader Kim Jong-un calls for improved inter-Korean relations, urging the South to mend strained ties. Citing uncertainties on the peninsula, South Korea's defense minister asks the military to stand ready for any possible provocation. Despite strong protests from Korea and China following Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe's recent visit to the controversial Yasukuni War Shrine, a member of Abe's cabinet pays respects to the country's war dead, including Class A war criminals at the site. Plus, consumers in Korea are feeling the brunt of several public utility and food price hikes in the new year. Gas prices have jumped nearly 6%, and the government forecasts inflation of 2.3% for 2014. Daybreak begins now.
You're watching Daybreak on Thursday, January 2nd. I'm Choi Yusan in Seoul. Perhaps it was just a moment of New Year cheer, but North Korean leader Kim Jong-un extended a softer, more welcoming message to South Korea during his New Year's address on Wednesday, calling for better ties with Seoul. Our Yurian has the details.
North Korean leader Kim Jong-un delivered a rather conciliatory message towards South Korea on Wednesday.
We must create an atmosphere to improve ties between the two Koreas. I will work together with anyone who values our people and seeks reunification to improve relations.
The message, which was part of an annual New Year's speech that was broadcast live on state-run television, was rather unexpected. Pundits in Seoul have been expecting a military provocation by North Korea sometime in March or April this year, as it tries to turn attention away from instability following the execution of Chang Song-taek, Pyongyang's former second most powerful man in command and Kim's uncle. They now expect North Korea to instead propose dialogue with Seoul in the coming months. But North Korean leader Kim Jong-un also mentioned the strained relations with South Korea and the United States. Pointing to their military exercises around the Korean peninsula, he called them rehearsals for nuclear war against the North. He warned that if war were to break out, it would spiral into a, quote, nuclear catastrophe. Now, as for the execution of Chang Song-taek, Kim did not mention him by name. He instead chose to refer to him as a factionalist filth and said that removing him has strengthened the ruling Workers' Party. Chang was executed in mid-December after being charged for trying to overthrow the government. Also on Wednesday, Kim, with his wife Lee Seol-ju and a group of top officials, made their annual visit to the Kumsusan Palace of the Sun to pay respects to the regime's two late leaders, Kim Il-sung and Kim Jong-il, whose bodies lie in state there. Yurian, Arirang News.
South Korea has issued a clear warning to North Korea that it will not put up with any funny business. In his New Year's letter to the nation's commanders and chiefs of staff Wednesday, Defense Minister Kim Kwan-jin said South Korea had achieved peace and prosperity by overcoming numerous crises, and the military stands ready to protect the nation's important values. He also stressed the country's armed forces would respond immediately, precisely, and sufficiently to any provocations. South Korean Foreign Minister Yoon Byung-se and his Chinese counterpart Wang Yi held telephone talks on ways to maintain stability on the Korean peninsula following the recent execution of the North Korean leader's uncle. Both sides also reaffirmed that they will continue strategic cooperation to bring about denuclearization on the Korean peninsula. A Japanese cabinet minister visited the controversial Yasukuni War Shrine in Tokyo on Wednesday, just 6 days after Prime Minister Shinzo Abe enraged neighboring countries with his own visit. Yoshitaka Shindo, Japan's Internal Affairs and Communications Minister, said he visited the shrine to pay respects to those who lost their lives in war. The Yasukuni Shrine honors 2.5 million war dead, including convicted Class A war criminals. It is viewed by neighboring countries like Korea and China as a symbol of Japanese wartime aggressions, and Shinzo's visit is likely to further inflame tensions in the region. Fans of online videos here in Korea had the opportunity to see right at the start of the new year a clip promoting the Dokdo islets. At midnight on Wednesday, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs released a video using ample historical evidence to spread the word about Korea's sovereignty over the islets and to counter Japan's recent barrage of online videos which try to claim the territory. Currently, the video is in Korean and can be viewed at dokdo.mofa.go.kr. Other language versions will soon follow this year. The Korea Railway Corporation is doing all it can to normalize train services following a 3-week-long union strike that officially ended on Tuesday. Although all union workers are back on the job, Korail operated services are not running at full capacity just yet. Subways are to resume normal operations on January 6th and all train services on January 14th. As of Wednesday, KTX bullet train operations were running at 72% of the normal levels. The Saemaeul and Mugunghwa train services at 56% and 62% respectively, and cargo train services at 30%. Train ticket reservations for the upcoming Lunar New Year holiday will begin next Tuesday.
If you want the latest news from Korea and around the world.
Return to the negotiation.
President Park Geun-hye planned, given the current circumstances.
On your way to work or at home.
Defense Ministry. The legislature will convene a.
Tune into Daybreak on Arirang TV.
Prime Minister Shinzo Abe said Tuesday. Despite slowing global trade in 2013, Korea posted a record trade surplus of $44 billion last year, up 2% from the previous year. The Trade Ministry on Wednesday said the surplus was due to a steady growth in exports on the back of increased outbound shipments to countries like China and the United States. Looking ahead, however, the ministry says Korea's trade surplus may shrink as there are concerns over the U.S. Federal Reserve's stimulus tapering, slowing economic conditions in emerging countries, and a strengthening Korean won. Public utility charges such as gas prices and parcel delivery services were raised on New Year's Day here in Korea. The move has drawn criticism from some quarters as it increases the financial burden on low and middle income households. Our Kim Min-ji has the details.
Public utility charges are rising sharply from the start of the new year. With the price of food also on the rise, the price hikes are almost certain to increase the financial burden on households. Following hot on the heels of hikes in electricity and raw materials, these increases are expected to occur over a wide range of fields. Starting January 1st, the Korea Gas Corporation raised the price of natural gas by roughly 5.8%. The price of gas for households went up by 5.7%, translating into an additional $4 per household per month. The industrial sector saw a 6.1% increase and the service sector a 5.5% hike. The hike follows a lift in electricity rates in November last year by an average of 5.4% in an attempt to curtail the nation's heavy electricity use. Transportation rates are also set to go up this year. The Korean Railroad Corporation is expected to increase rail prices by about 5%. The city of Ulsan is also considering plans to raise its taxi fares by 7%, while the western port city of Incheon raised taxi fares by an average of 17% last month. Post office parcel delivery service fees are also slated to rise starting next month. The Korea Post said an additional $1 will be added for packages, while it is also expected to impose transaction fees. The increase is the first in 9 years in a bid to make up for the deficit in postal services due to the reduction in post volume. The price of food and beverages has also gone up. Major confectionery companies, Lotte and Hette, however, are about to raise prices by an average of 8.7% and 11% respectively. Coca-Cola has also lifted the price of its soft drinks by 6.5%. Local bakeries will also raise prices on about a third of their products by an average of 7.3% starting January 15th. Considering all the price hikes, it shouldn't come as a huge surprise to see that the Ministry of Strategy and Finance expects this year's inflation rate to be 2.3%, up from last year's 1.3%. Kim Min-ji, Arirang News.
Korean lawmakers were able to pass a series of measures on New Year's Eve aimed at overhauling the nation's taxi industry. One of them includes slashing the number of taxis nationwide by about 50,000 in an effort to boost revenue and improve services. Our Paul Lee reports.
The last-minute passage of the Taxi Improvement Bill through the National Assembly marks a major step towards revitalizing Korea's taxi industry. According to the Transport Ministry, the newly passed legislation will directly address the oversupply of taxis by reducing their total number by 20% nationwide. However, it's unlikely the public will see a sharp reduction of cabs anytime soon. The ministry plans to first limit the number of new taxi licenses being issued per region after conducting a nationwide study on which areas have too many cabs. A $4.7 million budget will then be set up by the government to help buy back remaining licenses from drivers through 2020. In addition, under the new measures, taxi fare rates will increase every 2 years compared to the previous 3 to 4 year cycle. Surcharges for late-night taxis are expected to be raised and begin 1 hour earlier at 11 p.m. to promote expanded services at night. The government also plans to provide easier access and convenience by uniting about 1,200 call taxi services under a single phone number.
A single number will be used to call for taxi services anywhere in the nation. We will also significantly strengthen penalties and inspections as well as install cameras to root out drivers who turn down late-night passengers.
Other new standards include a new integrated system that will be used inside taxis to provide better management of payment services. The high-tech system also aims to prevent crimes by determining driving speeds, providing real-time locations, and indicating if a passenger is on board. Paul Yi, Arirang News.
And on New Year's Day, the first Russian tourist to take advantage of the Korea-Russia visa waiver program arrived by boat in Seokcho on Korea's east coast. President Park Geun-hye and Russian President Vladimir Putin signed an agreement in November for a visa-free travel program to boost tourism, trade, and overall relations. Under the scheme, citizens of either nation can visit the other without a visa for up to 60 days and up to 90 days in total over a 6-month period. Last year, around 95,000 South Koreans traveled to Russia, while more than 167,000 Russians visited Korea. Pope Francis has urged people to accept differences and search for peace in his New Year's message. Delivering his first New Year's message in St. Peter's Square Wednesday, Pope Francis said people need to pay more attention to violence and injustice in other parts of the world and asked that people not be indifferent or immobile to the suffering of others. He also stressed fraternity as a key foundation to build a true community of the humankind and urged people to embrace difference and take responsibility to make a better world. Moving on now to the ongoing civil unrest in South Sudan. The South Sudanese government and rebels were set to begin talks in neighboring Ethiopia late Wednesday or Thursday in a bid to end weeks of violence that has left over 1,000 people dead. President Salva Kiir and rebel leader Riek Machar sent delegations to Addis Ababa to hash out the details of a peace agreement. The talks come as the South Sudan government acknowledged that it lost the key town of Bor to rebel forces. The United States welcomed the move by both sides and reiterated the need to end the bloodshed that has sent tens of thousands of civilians fleeing from their homes. The extravagant and largest ever New Year's Eve fireworks in Dubai has made it onto the Guinness World Records. The Guinness Record website confirmed its latest decision on Wednesday, saying the 6-minute show of 500,000 fireworks spanning 94 kilometers across the Dubai coast required 10 months of planning. The $6 million spectacle, which started at the world's tallest Burj Khalifa tower, then moved on to the man-made Palm Jumeirah and the World Islands, was orchestrated by a U.S. firm using 100 computers and 200 technicians. The previous record was set by an hour-long show of over 77,000 fireworks by Kuwait in 2011. Over the last few years, Seoul has become a world-class theater city. Musicals are the new hot ticket in the nation, with a number of popular films and novels being transformed to fit the Korean audience. Our Kim Ji-yeon takes a look at what's drawing people to the theaters.
Musicals are booming not just in the Big Apple, but right here in Seoul as well. They're gaining more mass appeal by casting well-renowned Korean wave Hallyu stars to draw in new fans to the theater. And some of these musicals, which are based on Western novels or films, have been reimagined to fit their Korean audiences. Some of the hottest musicals in Korea this season include The Three Musketeers, which features TV stars turned musical actors Shin Sung-woo and Yoo Jun-sang, who both play the role of Athos, and Kim Jong-un as Hermes. Based on the novel by Alexandre Dumas, the musical recounts the adventures of a young man after leaving home to travel to Paris, where he meets friends who live by the motto, all for one and one for all. Another musical, Ghost, stars 26-year-old actor Chu Won as the male lead of Sam Wheat, and singer-turned-musical actress Ivy as the female lead of Molly Jansen. The musical is based on the 1990 American film Ghost that starred Patrick Swayze and Demi Moore, in which Sam, with the help of a psychic, returns to Earth as a ghost to save Molly from falling into danger. The famous song from the movie soundtrack Unchained Melody is presented in an acoustic version in the musical. Kim Ji-yeon, Arirang News.
And a good Thursday morning to you all as we kick things off on the ice. Now, we're about a month away from the Sochi Winter Olympics, but just a few days away from the National Figure Skating Championships. And our figure queen Kim Yuna had her practice session on Wednesday. Now, despite it being New Year's Day, there's no day off for Kim Yuna, who's preparing for the Winter Games and the upcoming domestic competition. And even with the media coming out, everything seems well despite worries of her previous injury. Now, Kim added that she's still working on her jumps and steps as she continues to work on her performance leading to her grand finale before her retirement from the sport. And moving on, 2013 was a busy year for SungYeung, who transferred from Swansea City to Sunderland and also got married. But he's quite busy on the pitch as well, as he was ranked #1 in the pass rate in the EPL. Now, according to ESPN's official Twitter, the 26-year-old completed 91.2% of his passes in the EPL, which is good for #1 overall. But that's not all. In the 5 major European leagues, he is also ranked #2, just trailing Valentino Bellamy of Napoli in Italy's Serie A. And shifting over to the majors, where ESPN has ranked the LA Dodgers at #2 and the Texas Rangers at #6 for 2014's top 10 team in the majors. Now, despite a quiet offseason for the Dodgers, they're still able to take the #2 spot as the addition of Chu Shin-soo boosted the Texas Rangers at #6 going into the new season. All right, so with that said, moving on to some Wednesday's KBL action. The LG Sakers crushed the Dongbu Promie 82-69 with KT Sonic Boom sneaking one past the ET-Land Elephants 89-86. Meanwhile, it was a battle of the two Seoul teams as the Seoul Samsung Thunders took on the Seoul SK Knights. Now, of course, going into the game here in the first quarter of the game, SK's Byung Gi-hoon leading the way with 8 points as SK takes an 18-11 lead before going into halftime with a comfortable 36-27 lead. By the third quarter of the game, the Thunders roaring back outscores the SK Knights 24-14, taking a slim 51-50 lead going into fourth quarter. Samsung's Jasper Johnson puts up 16 points in the fourth, but everyone else struggles from the field as the SK Knights rally back in the fourth quarter to take this game 74-71, your final score. And now finishing things off with yesterday's V-League action, the IBK Altos cruised past the Hunguk Insurance Life Pink Spiders 3-0 over on the women's side as they continue to dominate the women's league. Now, meanwhile, an epic match between the Hyundai Capital Skywalkers and the Korean Air Jumbos, so let's take a look at the highlights. Of course, going into the game here, just a back and forth roller coaster of a match between the two teams as Hyundai Capital takes the first set 25-20 before Korean Air answers back with a 25-23 second set win. Third set, another tight match here as Hyundai Capital squeezes in a 26-24 set win before Korean Air, you guessed it, answers back once again with a 25-16 4-set win, forcing the decisive fifth set. But with Liberman Algamez putting up 28 attack points and Moon Sung-min back in the starting lineup, Hyundai Capital takes the fifth set 15-13 and a 3-2 victory. Well, with all that said, it's going to wrap it up for me. This has been SJ. Have a great rest of the day and see you guys again for your sports needs.
Good Thursday morning to you. I'm Lee Ji-hyun with your latest weather forecast. Well, I hope you've all had Happy New Year's. And wasn't the weather really nice yesterday? And it seemed like a lot of people were taking advantage of nice weather condition. And it looks like the mild and pleasant winter weather will continue today. But it will be chillier this morning than yesterday as the morning lows will be a couple of degrees lower. And here in the Seoul metro area, we are waking up to morning low at -3, but this chilly morning will turn to mild afternoon as we go through the day. Well, even if it was mild and sunny yesterday, the level of fine dust particles were a tad higher than normal in the capital area. But thankfully, it has cleared out overnight and it's back to normal level. And we should have mostly sunny skies across the nation throughout the day, so it will be a good day to go out and soak up some vitamin D from the sun this afternoon. And yes, the first week of January will feature mild temperatures with daytime highs in the positive side in all regions. And tomorrow, high in Seoul will peak to 7 degrees Celsius, and this mild condition will continue through the weekend. So let's try to enjoy this mild start of 2014 under partly to mostly sunny skies before the cold snap returns later next week. With that in mind, here are the readings for today. Morning low in Seoul is starting out at -3 and afternoon highs will peak to 4, while Daegu and Gwangju wake up to daily low at 1 but will reach 9 respectively, and Busan will enjoy double-digit daily high at 10 under lots of sunshine. Now let's see how other regions are looking. It looks like Jeju should enjoy a high of 13 in the afternoon. Daejeon and Dokdo will reach at 6 and 5, but the top temperature in Mount Kumgang will be only at -7. Now that's all for Korea, and here's the global forecast for viewers around the world. That's all for me at this hour. Enjoy your morning commute and hope you have a wonderful day.
those are the stories we have for you this hour. Stay with us throughout the day as we bring you the latest headlines.